So I've always been a social soul. I pride myself on being friendly, empathetic, and welcoming. When I lived in Chapel Hill when I was 2, our neighbors were called the Smileys, and their father was Buddy Smiley. Yes, Buddy Smiley. And I would get in my plastic play cruiser and run my way down there and fling up one of my chubby toddler hands and yell, "Hi, Buddy!" from like the top of my lungs, just loving life. And in 2nd grade, we had an assignment that we had to express what we prided ourselves on, some sort of skill or something that we did really, really well. Like my peers were saying, kickball, drawing. And I thought about it and I said, I am really good at being a friend. But I didn't always have fun on my own. I usually garnered it from those around me. Like when my brother started kindergarten, my mom took me to a new daycare. So I was alone when she dropped me off, and the caretaker took me to a table and sat me down and reassured my mom everything would be fine. When my mom came back 8 hours later, I was sitting at the same seat at the same table, and my demeanor, she said, was like a wilted flower. Like I had just closed myself off. No one had played with me, and I had a terrible day. Needless to say, she didn't bring me back there. That's why I loved having a sibling. My brother, Bryce, is 2 years older than me. He is hilarious, quirky, smart, hardworking person. One of his special quirks is he signed himself up for juggling lessons in middle school. And so he learned like how to juggle with 3 balls. He even learned how to juggle with 2 in one hand. Better yet, he learned how to juggle 3 when 1 was an apple, change to 1 with 2, take a bite out of the apple, and then keep playing with 3. This is also the time he taught himself the presidents in chronological order, and then in reverse chronological order. So I hope you guys know the punchline. He would juggle 2 balls in an apple, start reciting the presidents in reverse chronological order, stop, take a bite of the apple, keep juggling in one hand, continue juggling in 3, and then keep reciting the presidents in reverse chronological order. Brought down the house every single talent show. My parents were just down here for Mother's Day weekend, and I told them that I was sharing the story about my brother and how I looked up to him so much. And they were like, he used to have this friend, Kevin Glass, and in 4th grade, everyone in the class was asked who their hero was. Most kids were saying celebrities. Kevin Glass said Bryce. And that's true for me too. He was my role model, and I felt so lucky to be his sister, because he only had one, and it was me. So none of y'all can be his sister. That also sort of took us through 4 states, all by the time I was 10. It's one thing to be a peer and look up to someone, but when you are traveling through all these alternating environments, like it really just inspired me even more, sealed that bond. And we ended up living in this small town called Voorheesville by the time we were in high school. And it's outside of Albany, so there's like Albany, and then there's the suburbs, and then there's Voorheesville. Like it's out there. I lived across from a cow pasture. And this is where my dad taught my brother and I how to play Frisbee. When I say Frisbee, he taught us the backhand and the chicken wing, obviously because it's the best dad throw there is. And once we learned everything we could from him, my brother and I started learning everything about it from each other. When my brother threw harder, I would throw harder. When he threw farther, I would throw farther. And soon we were standing on opposite ends of the backyard just wailing it at each other, and whoever missed went home really sad. So needless to say, it sounds like a competition, right? Except I think competition is the wrong word, because usually in a competition, each rival needs to know that it's a competition. I don't think my brother ever saw me as a competitor. But of course, I always wanted to keep with him because I thought he was so cool, I wanted to be as cool, and as cool meant as good. So as good at sports was sort of, in my mind, how I could make him impressed with me. I kind of like came up with a mantra, like, what would Bryce do? So when Bryce started high school, he played baseball. And when I came of age, I was like, great, I'll try out for softball because baseball's not offered to my gender. Softball sounds like the right way to go. Except I missed tryouts. And one of my friends knew I really wanted to do a sport, so they told me that track and field was just accepting walk-ons. So I was like, cool, I'll do that. And I discovered I was really good at it. Like, I was so good at running and hurdling and jumping. And it was the first time I had sort of taken a step in my own shoes. Was able to just really be who I was and not follow in his footsteps. This was also at the time, one summer, my brother and his friends started playing Ultimate Frisbee. We would gather in the field next to our elementary school, and it was kind of like Hey Arnold at the beginning sequence when all the kids are like emerging out of the alleyways and like the stoops, except for us it was like emerging from the cornfields and the woods. And we would just basically split whoever showed up from 8 players to 30 players, throw them on the field, backhands, all we knew you weren't able to walk and there was a stall count to 10. Like no one knew flicks, bids, that was beyond our imagination at the time. But we had so much fun. 99% of the time, I was the only girl. I can't even remember if I played well. But that doesn't really matter because I knew I was always welcomed. I was always welcomed back to this space. And for me, I just wanted to keep impressing my brother. So as long as I was there, I was able to work on it, impress him. And then we moved to college. My brother went to Carleton College in Minnesota, and I went to Smith College in Massachusetts. And it was the first time that I was away from my nuclear family, my brother, to look for guidance, and I was on my own. So I referred myself to what would Bryce do? In those early orientation days, I took a deep breath and thought, sports. Okay, sports. I remember he really liked those, so I really like doing that. So I'll go to the sports orientation sign-up day. And I went there and immediately put my name down on the Ultimate Frisbee sign-up sheet. And as I was signing my name, I just had this fantasy of going back home for holidays. We'd all get our friends together, go to that field, and I would just be playing awesome with all my new, fresh skills. All Bryce's friends would be impressed, so he would have to be impressed. And he would just be shining with pride at being my brother. So I played all 4 years at college, and every time I moved to a new city beyond that, I would immediately find Frisbee. I kept playing in new cities, finding new friends, finding Frisbee, and it became my mantra. What would Seneca do? 10 years after we've no longer been living together, my brother and I have lived in 8 different states, and we don't play Frisbee together anymore. We never got back to that field, to those friends, and I was never really able to show off these skills that I had worked so hard building to impress him, and I never got that satisfaction of the praise. Like, Seneca, I'm so proud to be your brother. But I realized it doesn't matter. Bryce didn't choose to be my brother. He didn't choose to be my role model. He unintentionally, just by living in proximity to me, created a path that I wanted to follow. But I realized that eventually there was a turning point when I started making my own path and making my own decisions about the life I wanted to lead. And I realized that I continued to play Frisbee, even though it might have started because of him. I continued to play because of me.